This is The Guardian.
Hello and welcome to The Guardian Football Weekly, and a weekend where even the coldest footballing heart might have welled up with all the emotion. It's amazing what this game can do. Crystal Palace win the FA Cup, their first major trophy in their 120-year history. Eze's goal, Dean Henderson's penalty save, 10 minutes of agonising injury time before the final whistle blew, and the red and dark blue half of Wembley basically burst into tears. So much credit to go around. Oliver Glasner, Steve Parish, every single player, and a result that feels good for the game. If Palace can do it after all this time, then perhaps anyone else can too. If that's not enough emotion for you, farewell to Goodison Park. Everton did it brilliantly, winning the game, bringing so many greats out. The waves of blue smoke around the ground made it look so beautiful. And then Jamie Vardy scoring a classic Vardy goal on his 200th and final home game for Leicester, 13 years to the day after he was signed for £1 million. There was some other football too, Arsenal confirming their Champions League spot, while the rest of it will go down to the wire. The race for 8th, which might mean something, is still up for grabs. All that plus seeing Football Weekly panellists in the wild. Your questions, and that's today's Guardian Football Weekly. On the panel today, Barry Glendenning, welcome.
Hi, Max.
Hello, Troy Townsend.
Hi, Max.
Good morning, Will Unwin.
Hi, Max.
And joining us for part one, Ed Ahrens. You're here not really as a journalist today, Ed, but just as a Crystal Palace fan. How are you, mate?
Not too bad, Max. How are you?
Yeah, really good. Paul writes, hi Max, Palace fan here. Simply wonderful. I've never felt such a well of emotions. I laughed, cried, hugged strangers, had messages from people I haven't heard from in years. I have a multitude of cuts and bruises for jumping around like an idiot. This is what it means for us. Pute says, hi Max and team. Why do I keep spontaneously welling up and crying when reliving FA Cup content? As a long-suffering England and Palace fan, is this what it feels like to finally reach nirvana? How long will this last for? He says, Ed, you were there, you know, with your mates, an incredible photo of you with tears in your eyes, but not just tears in your eyes, but like tears of someone who has been crying for a long time, you know. when did the tears come?
Oh, not until the very end, the very, very end of the final whistle. Where it was such a strange experience. Not even the last, everyone's talking about the additional time, but for me, it was really almost from the moment we scored. You know, which was quite early, and it was about 70 minutes, wasn't it? Of just because we'd all been there before, you know, against United in 2016, and I was really scarred by that. I remember thinking against United, you know, we were 1-0 up with 10 minutes to go, and I remember thinking, wow, this could be it. This could be it. We might win a trophy, and obviously everyone knows what happened. We lost when we got into that situation where it was possible we might win. I just couldn't allow myself to think it, and I concentrated so much on the game. I've watched every kick of the game, you know, like just I can remember quite a lot of it as well. Like even now, like I can remember every chance oh my goodness, it was agony. But yeah, and so at the final whistle, it was just a massive release of emotions from everywhere around us and shrieks of delight, and it was just a crazy moment. And then the next few hours are just a dream. I think most people were wandering around sort of dazed and confused, like, and really the sense was, what do we do now? We didn't know where to go, how to celebrate, what we were supposed to do, because we've never done it, and no one had allowed themselves to think that it might happen, because it just was too dangerous to do that.
What did you do?
Well, we'd actually, win or lose, we had decided we were going to meet, because there was loads of us there, and we were going to meet at this bar for a drink. So eventually we all ended up there, and it was just the most amazing moment, you know, because we all came in dribs and drabs, we weren't all sitting together. And the people that we hadn't seen, you had that little moment where you saw each other for the first time, and, you know, everybody had it with everybody else. It was just like amazing sort of hugs, like, and, you know, everybody just disbelief. And like I say, we didn't know what to do. Like, we stayed there for a couple of hours, and then we were like, right, we should head back to sort of South London somewhere. We all live, you know, scattered around these days. And then we went to another bar, and but yeah, just I think everyone was just exhausted, even on the train home, that people still seeing and stuff. But it's just exhausted joy, I think it's the best way of putting it.
I burst into tears at the final whistle, just at just at seeing a. There's an amazing video. There've been loads of videos. I imagine, Ed, you have watched so much content in the last 24 hours. But there's this video where someone sort of just moves his phone around, and there's different people crying of different ages, and there's like a husband and his wife, and she is in full Palace kit, and he just looks like he's just gone for a walk. Like he's an old guy with a grey beard. I don't know if you've seen this one. And he's just trying to, she can't hold it together, and he's sort of trying to hold it together for her. I don't know. But I don't know how many times you've sort of welled up in the last day, or if you've held. I know you had to go to the Arsenal game. It seems a bit hard to actually go to work. But
with that, I obviously thought didn't think we were going to win, and so I was asked to do it. And I was like, yeah, it's my main job. I can't say no. For me, the best feeling of the whole thing, actually, possibly, maybe not the whole thing, but one of the best memories was just waking up the next day. And wow, it wasn't a dream. And then just, just remembering and just spontaneously dancing around when I'm walking my dog in the morning and stuff. It's just and even on the way home from Arsenal, I had a little moment. There was walking back, just put my arms in the air. It's just crazy. You can't really imagine what it feels like, because also, as a football fan generally, I've never won anything. We've seen England lose 2 finals now as well, and obviously Palace 2 finals before that. So it was kind of 5th time lucky, to win something as a fan for me and all the other Palace fans, I suppose.
After Eze scored, was there any element of the game that you enjoyed after the celebrations of the goal, or was it just like you were just stunned and then obviously were waiting for the final whistle?
I did enjoy some of it, because the way when Palace, the goal, I just watched the whole thing back, the whole move. It's brilliant. It's just so perfect. Yeah, it's such a perfect goal, the way that we once played, the tactic. And so the few moments when we had the chance to string a few things together was brilliant. And some of the, the defending was unbelievable as well, the putting their bodies on the line. Adam Wharton was throwing himself around. I just loved his performance, and obviously ended up in hospital having a concussion check, which was a bit sad for him. But yeah, I wouldn't say enjoy it, but I mean, City were obviously not at their best, but they didn't really. They had a lot of chances, obviously, but I'm not going to say there wasn't a moment I didn't think they were going to score, because I thought they were going to score all the time. But there wasn't, especially at the end, there wasn't a massive chance, was there? And I can't really remember that.
No.
In the last 10 minutes, there wasn't a massive chance.
No.
That De Bruyne one, I suppose, was the one that I thought that was going to go in. Everyone thought that was going in. That volley.
There was that moment where Doku, I think, was it right at the end, put it wide, and then you must have known it was right, time is up. He's put it wide, and that is just oh. Well,
I've seen the way that the live coverage on BBC, I think it was. It goes that moment, then it goes to this guy in a yellow shirt in the crowd, and he's going like this, and shaking his fists. And then that bit was just a beautiful bit of TV. I mean, I'm obviously very biased, but like you were saying, just everywhere you look, people just doing it, breaking down, hugging, and you could just see the emotion everywhere, and just unbelievable. You can't write it.
Just out of interest, Ed, when are you going to start mentioning the cheating?
Well, I did have to put that in I did have to put that in my piece that I did yesterday. And to be honest, at the time, it wasn't until quite late in the day that I realised that it was an obvious blunder, a red card, and everything. We thought that he wasn't outside the box, and they checked it and everything. We didn't. That was an interesting thing as well. As a journo, don't go to many games as a fan. Certainly not since VAR's been in, and it's an awful experience, isn't it? Just you don't know what the hell is going on, and we are very, very privileged, or reminded of that. That we have, well, not always as journalists, but most of the time you have a monitor there and you can see what's going on. But as I put in my piece, we all remember in 2016 Mark Clattenburg pulling back play when Connor Wickham was through on goal early on. I mean, this was so early in the cup final. But, it's one of those things you hang on to as a fan.
And it was Connor Wickham.
And it was Connor Wickham. But it's one of those things you hang on to. And I mean, give us one, Will. Come on. Give us one.
I wouldn't worry about missing it Ed, because Jared Gillett had the same problem as you.
Well, yeah. He must have been in the crowd and met at Covent Garden at 11.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I'm sure a few Eagles fans bought him a pint afterwards.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean the thing is,
Incredible decision.
it is an incredible decision, but like I sort of think football, Man City aside, and like had it been the other way round, and if Palace had been denied a red card, this whole tone of this pod would be different because I think you support the underdog. City have won so much. It was just so nice to see a different set of football fans and what it meant to them. So I was totally delighted he wasn't sent off. I think there was a wider conversation about, look, if VAR is for clear and obvious and it can't sort that out, then it's another sort of nail in its coffin. Or not that that coffin will ever be put in the ground. There's an amazing shot, Ed, in super slow-mo, the penalty. And just watching the Palace not watching the ball, not watching Dean Henderson, but watching the Palace fans just erupt and then erupt again when he gets the rebound. And he had a brilliant, brilliant game.
Oh, credit to my mate Sammy, who's in that picture with me. He was standing on my right, actually, when the penalty was taken. And I remember him saying, he's going to save it. He's going to put it to the right and he's going to save it. And I was like, I hate people who do that normally. I hate it. But he got it right. And I just was like, oh my God. I just kissed him on his bald head. It was like Fabian Barthez. But, it was. Henderson was brilliant. He's been absolutely brilliant all season as well. He some fantastic performances, and I really love his character. He's come through quite a lot in his career, and he lost his dad this year as well, and it was fantastic to see how well he played. He rose to the occasion. Obviously, shouldn't have been on the pitch, but let us have it.
And actually, you mentioned that emotion, and that tifo is brilliant, of those two young kids hugging their dad after Darren Ambrose had scored at Old Trafford, I think, in the Cup. And what are the words?
Wembley will shake. Wembley will shake. It will be beautiful. Yeah, that's from Maxence Lacroix said that to us just before the semi-final, talking about whether what it was going to be like playing at Wembley for the first time. And he was right, wasn't he?
Yeah, and the words are so poignant, and it's those kids lost their dads and a few years ago, but the tifos of those kids when they're young, and it's a photo of them in the ground now hugging each other. It's just, I suppose it's interesting, Barry, isn't it? Because we've said this before, but there are so many moments in football. When you cover it, you're just doing it week in, week out, day in, day out, and occasionally there are moments that just remind you why this thing is so beautiful. And I think this day was one of those.
Yeah, that tifo was wonderful. I mean, I absolutely wanted Crystal Palace to win. I watched this final with a gang of mates in a South London pub, fans of loads of different teams. Weirdly, there wasn't a single Palace fan there, but it was probably not weird because they'd all be at Wembley, but the eruption of joy when first the fury, the collected fury when the board went up with 10 minutes, and then just absolute scenes and limbs when the final whistle went, from a load of largely middle-aged men and women none of whom support Crystal Palace, but we were all absolutely thrilled, delighted for them. And what I think really liked about this is certain teams kind of have a signature goal, and that Palace winner was a signature Palace goal, I think, certainly from this season. Lump it long, what's his face, holds the ball up, spreads it wide to Daniel Munoz, and then he sends in the cross, and Eze finishes. And that is, for me, Palace's signature goal. Yeah. And it was great.
And look, and Eze, I love his celebration, Troy. I love his just stand still and laugh about the world. It's just such a great, sort of a new celebration. Quite hard to think of a new one. I mean, you know him, don't you?
Yeah.
And you must be absolutely, and you've got obviously links to Palace, how long Andros was there. You must be delighted.
Yeah, absolutely. I was watching it in a pub in Liverpool Street and with a group of mates, and there were two Manchester City fans sat there eagerly taking in the game and expecting victory with all these Palace fans around them. It was a beautiful occasion. Having that connection, I almost kicked and headed every ball for them because I know how much this means to the fans. Eberechi is an unbelievable human being, first and foremost. His faith in God and the kind of the way that he's got into the game after so many rejections of, when he was younger and, the feeling that probably he would never make it, but he continued to have that faith. But this season, I've seen a difference. Like you said there, Max, he's smiling a lot. He's enjoying his kind of presence in a team that is free flowing. He's getting on the end of things. He's scoring goals. He scored for his country, but now his name is going to be etched in history. And it couldn't happen to a nicer fella. I'll be honest with you. He's just a great human being, first and foremost, who will continue to smile, I think. And like you said, the celebration is all around his faith. The celebration is all around his new take on the game, I think. And it couldn't have happened to a better person. It was a wonderful occasion. And the reason I asked you, Ed, about that question, because I remember the Etihad in 2018. And even though we were 3-1 up, like you said, every time Manchester City attacked, I thought they were going to score and this great victory was going to be taken away. So I didn't enjoy it from the minute we were 1-0 up in that game. But to win it 3-2 and for Andros to get that goal was just an amazing feeling. But that is now topped by that feeling that you had at Wembley, which must have been unreal.
And of course, just talking about the tifos in the semi-final, it was the boy that Andros gave his shirt to. After what game was it?
It was the Man City game.
Oh, it was that game,
2018,
right,
yeah.
Which was amazing. Young Ethan, yeah, unbelievable.
Yeah.
And that, showing how important the community is to Palace, there's that real sense.
Well, even seeing that tifo at the semi-final did put a tear in my eye, because I met him a couple of days later. Andros took him on the pitch with him at home at Cardiff. Such a lovely family, with a story again of granddad that used to take him to the games and unfortunately passed away, and the grandmum took it on board to then continue that kind of legacy, so to see that was very emotional as well.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention the Holmesdale fanatics, because I mentioned it in my piece, that they really have transformed the club, the support of the club. I used to go, back in the day, and we've always had good fans, made a lot of noise, but like every club, it was ups and downs, with how the team was doing often. But with those guys, I have to doff my cap to them, because they are thick and thin, and they make noise whatever the situation, and they've really influenced a lot of people in the club, I think, and built this sort of amazing atmosphere that we have at the home games. And you saw at Wembley, it's and all the tifos and the displays. It's largely down to them, not completely. It's everybody as a collective, but they are very much a driving force.
Ed, before the game, I interviewed Kevin Day, a comedian and Palace fan. And, so this is like, 3 hours before kickoff. And he was having this complete existential crisis. Similar one to I have when England's men have got to the final. And I'm like, do I want these players to be the ones, because I've deified the boys of 66. And he was, he was saying all the things I think everyone was thinking was, no one's talking about the game. They're all in the pub going, how are the kids? They just don't want to mention it because they were so scared. But then he said, actually, this is the best Palace team ever. Like, in history, of course, they've been great players. But actually, in terms of the manager and the setup and the players sort of back to front, this is the one that is worthy of winning something.
Oh, definitely, yeah. I mean, you just got to look at the how many internationals we've got now. Every position is pretty much an international player, and some of them are players who are clearly capable of playing in Europe, which we're going to, but at a higher level. And the recruitment has been amazing, absolutely unbelievable. And Glasner's kind of been brought in such a short time as well. He's managed to impose his style, and everybody buys into it so much. He is an amazing manager. He really is. Having seen him up close for the last year and a bit, he's worked wonders there. Considering where they were when he came in. I mean, a lot of the players were on the books already, but it's just a real testament. He makes players better, which is what you always say is the key thing for a manager. But yeah, I mean, if you just go, there's so many individuals to mention, really. There's not really any weak links. Tyreek Mitchell is the one that everybody sort of picks out as maybe not up to the standard of the others, but his performance was so wholehearted. He gave away the penalty and, just gave everything for the team. And yeah, throughout the team, there's quality, and it's very exciting.
If you can keep hold of those players. But I don't think that is a conversation for now. Will, you, as the Man City, participant on this, commiserations. It's okay. You've won loads of stuff. No one is crying for you. But Wilson wrote a piece about how Pep overthought it. Did you think he did?
I mean, I've got the moral high ground at least. That's important as a Manchester City fan.
For once.
Of course. Of course.
I'm waiting for you, Will, to address the fact that the penalty you got was not a penalty in your own time.
I mean, it was a penalty. What, it was a Stonewall penalty?
It was.
He got the ball.
No, he didn't.
Went in from the side and he touched the ball before the player went down.
No, he didn't.
Anyway, carry on.
It was somehow even clearer than the handball, the penalty.
It's all right. We'll let you have the penalty.
Oh, cheers, Ed. Thanks. I mean, I feel a lot better about it now. I mean, I wish Marmoush had said the same to Haaland, but there we go. I don't think he went for it. I think he knew he'd get a lot of the ball, so he put in Bernardo Silva and De Bruyne into those positions because they can use it better than maybe Kovacic or even Gundogan in those areas at the moment, and dominated possession and tried to play the two wingers to spread the play to create a bit more space in the centre. But I think overall the problem was, and it has been all season, it's the play's quite pedestrian. There's no way of breaking teams down. Southampton last week, I think there's a reason why De Bruyne's going and others will go. I don't think it's a case of overthinking it. I mean, City played all right. Had a lot of possession, missed a penalty, but it should have got the ball in the box a lot more. If you've got Erling Haaland and you need to chase a goal in a big occasion, you can lump it in the box. There's no great shame in it. You've got wingers who can cross a ball. So I think that was probably the only thing you can say City need to do more of, apart from play quicker. I think the interesting stuff, if you look at it, a couple of weeks ago, Haaland said, there's not been enough hunger this season within the team. And then Bernardo Silva after the final said, who you can go to war with after occasions like this. And it's shown that, there's obviously a issue on the pitch, but also a mental issue. And these things will need addressing. Bournemouth match on Tuesday night, Fulham away, two big games to secure Champions League football. Because if they don't, I think it's actually going to be quite catastrophic, considering the changes that clearly need to be made if City are going to challenge at the top of the league next season. I think overall it's just a standard City performance this season. I'm not sure it's a case of overthinking it on this occasion. I mean, I know Pep's been guilty of that in the past, Champions League finals, etc. I just think the team is a little bit short on morale, but definitely short on speed of feet and thought at the moment. Just nothing happens quick enough to challenge teams. That's why Doku's playing, to try and add that spark, but didn't work at the weekend. You look at last season's FA Cup final, Doku was brought on to get City going because it was the same last season. They're very, very static. So I'm not surprised by what happened. I had a phone conversation with Ed the other week, and I said, "Oh no, I'm actually quite worried. Palace are the sort of team that causes problems on the counter." And as I say, they had a good chance to see what Southampton did to us the previous week, and City don't really seem to have an answer to it at the moment, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is. We have won a lot of trophies. I'll go over it.
Final thought before we let you go, Ed?
Oh, well, I mean, it's just, I don't know when this is really going to sink in, but the final thought actually is we're looking forward to the parade, which is going to be on Bank Holiday Monday. That's going to be really nice, because talking about not knowing how to celebrate, this time we'll at least have a bit of preparation time, and obviously it'll be the sort of, the whole, wherever it's going to be in Croydon or wherever it's going to be in Crystal Palace or near the stadium, but the whole sort of community will be able to come out and celebrate. So that's going to be really great.
Brilliant. Thanks, Ed. Thanks for coming on, pal, and congratulations. I am
Thank you.
Totally delighted for you. That photo you posted is absolutely brilliant. I loved it. Ed Aaron's there, and we'll be back in a minute to talk about the last home game for Everton's men at Goodison Park. Welcome to part 2 of the Guardian Football Weekly. Let's talk about the last game for the Everton's men then at Goodison. After 133 years, 2,791 men's senior games, 5,370 Everton goals, 856 Everton players. 148 different opponents. Andy Hunter joins us to talk about it. I won't ask you to talk through every game and every goal, Andy, but and Will was there as well. But Andy, how was it yesterday?
Not that old.
Yeah. How was Dixie? How do you talk us through Dixie Dean's best goal? Yeah.
What a header that was against Arsenal.
How was it yesterday? It looked like Everton did it brilliantly, actually.
They did. I thought it was pitched perfectly. I thought it was quite upbeat. Most of the day, I think scoring after 6 minutes helps. But it was a lovely day. Everyone was out. I mean, you couldn't get near the ground from 9:30. And I thought Everton did. To be fair, the club have spent about 3 months working on yesterday's event, and I thought it all went perfectly. I mean, it could have been a bit of a somber memorial, or so, but it was quite a celebration, I thought. Obviously, the win always helps, and having an opponent like Southampton was very obliging for Everton. Yeah, I just thought the day went really well. I thought, when I think the lone violinist started playing Z Cars, coincided with the hay fever kicking in, perhaps. But for people, and everyone got quite emotional there. But other than that, I thought it was a really upbeat day.
Yeah, I mean, there is obviously at any ground that's been around for that long, there's so much history. But when I think of even in my lifetime, that glorious team of the 80s, Neville Southall sitting by the post, that 4-4 with Cotty, Barry Horn, remember the name Wayne Rooney, even Tarkowski this season. Is there a moment, you will have seen so many moments, Andy, is there a moment that sticks out for you?
I think, maybe it's recency bias, but Tarkowski's equalisers against Liverpool is one that will live on for a long time in Goodison folklore, Everton folklore, if you like, just because of the manner of it, what it meant, what it signified. Liverpool would have forever have had the upper hand in derby wins at Goodison, but for that goal, and and just the scenes afterwards, and probably the torture of the 2 VAR reviews, waiting for that goal to stand. So that's one. The 4-4 obviously was another one. Far too many relegation scrapes for comfort. A club like Everton shouldn't be in those positions, but repeatedly get themselves in them. So the Wimbledon game, the Palace game, the Bournemouth game, the Coventry game. That's ridiculous.
It is when you think about it. And then bringing out all those legends, it just made me so nostalgic seeing, Adrian Heath and Big Nev and Pat Nevin and Graham Sharp and I just, all the way to Cahill and Rooney, and I think was Bob Latchford there. It was, that was so nice to see.
Yeah, Tony Kay was there. Brilliant player who was banned for life for putting bets on when he was a Sheffield Wednesday player in the early 60s. So he was at the front when they started. I thought it was really good and important that Graham Sharp came back. And I know he came back for the Ipswich game, the penultimate game, having been away for 2 years after being on the board. That was getting, everyone was protesting against how badly the club was being run under that board. And so he stayed away for 2 years, but he came back and he was on the part of the parade yesterday and got a brilliant reception. So I thought that was important for him and important for the club as well to move on.
Seamus Coleman led the team out. That was a lovely touch from David Moyes. He's got injured, but sort of typically understated departure for Seamus Coleman. No, just sort of jogged off, went, it's all right. It's be another game next week. But he has done so much for that football club.
He is. He's still very important behind the scenes. I mean, to be honest, he was that understated a departure that when he went off in the 18th minute and Ashley Young came on, number 18, a few of us in the press box were asking whether it was all, a pre-planned, emotional substitution so Ashley Young could get his rousing send-off too. But Coleman had been unbelievable player for Everton, 60 grand from Sligo Rovers. Still is a huge influence behind the scenes. I mean, Moyes was quite vague on what type of contract he's going to get. He said he would be staying on in a playing capacity, but they haven't gone into details over that contract yet. So I'm wondering whether there could be, just something to maybe see how the start of next season goes, so he can be the captain who leads Everton out at Goodison and then at Bramley-Moore Dock, the Hill Dickinson Stadium, as it's now called. And then take it from there, maybe a coaching role as well. If Leighton Baines stays with the senior team, then there's a vacancy with the under-18s.
Well, you were there. How did you find it?
Andy has scored at Goodison. That was the big revelation yesterday.
Right,
it's interesting. It's interesting as a neutral, and again as someone that travels to lots of different grounds around the country. Because I remember City leaving Main Road, actually lost to Southampton, so it was a less glorious day, and Badly Drawn Boy was not as good as a violinist. But it's just that sort of ground, the Archibald Leaf style stands, actually feel a bit nostalgic for the fact that new grounds don't have pillars blocking your view. And as I say, I got there at 9:30 thinking I'm going to get here early, and just streets of blue flares. I still smell of sulphur. It was very emotional, and I think I was a bit too young maybe to appreciate when City left Main Road, but it is the sort of the overall dying of football heritage of these stadiums that are going to come back. Yeah, they're not overall fit for purpose, I'd argue now, and modern stadia are a lot better in terms of viewing and facilities, but it was very emotional moments, and from the start, it was incredibly, well timed, and everyone was in the ground very early, which is not what you get, and everyone sort of comes in dribs and drabs now. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. It helped that everything calmed after about 6 minutes. I think the second half there was a bit of a lull. Everyone was very tired, having got to the stadium at about 6 a.m. on the cans which festoon the streets afterwards. My final memory will be walking back over Stanley Park to the car park and seeing a man trying to hold his friend up whilst the man's son held his bag, and then eventually giving up and just putting him against a lamppost and walking off. And I thought, this is football history. This is what we need. And I thought that was as good as it was going to get. It summed up the party atmosphere. He was happy against the lamppost, semi-conscious. It was great.
And I hadn't even filed my piece by that point.
Hey, Troy, you know Goodison well as well, of course, because of Andros's time there.
Yeah, obviously all too short, unfortunately. But I just wanted to say something about Seamus Coleman. He's just an incredible human being, first and foremost. He makes everyone welcome at the club, do you know what I mean? And he took time to talk to the family. Him and his wife and the children, they gelled with Andros's kids and everybody else. And it was just a born leader, but he took on the role, the mantle, unbelievably well. Andros calls him the best captain that he's ever worked for, and you could see that. Yeah, I was so disappointed for him yesterday, but like you said, Andy, there, I think probably it was staged. He wasn't going to last long, was he? And the perfect time was for Ashley Cole to come on.
Ashley Young.
Ashley Young. Sorry,
Ashley Cole
I bumped into Ashley Cole a little while ago, so I'm just using all the Ashleys that I can. I felt the atmosphere a couple of times. Obviously, the Merseyside derby that didn't go too well, but the beginning of the game put goosebumps on my skin. It was just an incredible anticipation of that game kicking off. And I think within 10 minutes, Liverpool for 1-up, and that atmosphere went like nothing. And then the Burnley game, I think Andros posted it yesterday on his Insta feed. Just, again, a very dour game for 45 minutes. But all of a sudden, after Burnley scored, Everton scored 3 goals in 5 minutes and could have had another one disallowed. And the crescendo of noise in that place, it's just a beautiful, beautiful place. Andros created the first goal. I couldn't see it because of the pole right in front of me. And that's always something that's good as well, isn't it? To miss something because of a pole. But I suppose that's the reason they've got to upgrade the ground. And then I experienced the other side of it. I remember a game against Watford, leading 2-1 with 12 minutes to go. And I know we don't want to talk about negatives today, losing 5-2. And the crowd just, do you remember that crowd just, it was crazy. But far too many good memories to worry about that. It's just an unbelievable environment. And yesterday, again, watching it on TV, you really felt the kind of send-off. And it was a beautiful ground. And I'm pleased Andros got to experience that.
Yeah, and pleased the women are going to keep playing there. So look, Goodison still has football there. Pete says, and there's a wonderful photo essay, by the way, by Tom Jenkins on the Guardian website you should look at. Pete says, the scenes at Goodison tinged slightly by the knowledge we will never again get a proper Goodison Park boo when Everton are 2-0 down at half-time. Yeah, it's just one of those famous, a chorus of boos around Goodison whenever, TalkSport or 5 Live jump there at half-time. It's worth mentioning, Andy, David Moyes has done a brilliant job. I think they'd be 8th if he, on the same points per game all season. And do you think they will carry it on in the new stadium? Because new stadiums can be a bit tricky sometimes.
Yeah, and I think that's why he doesn't want to lose, the experience of the likes of Seamus Coleman as well, to make sure that try and keep things as stable as he can. I mean, but getting back to what Moyes has done, he's done a fantastic job, and I think he caught where Everton are at perfectly as well yesterday after the game, where he was saying, no, he from afar, or from when he came back, he thought it was like a family that was broken, it looked broken, it felt broken, but it's not like that now. So I think this is the start. It has to be the start of something new. I think the sadness with Goodison is not just about Goodison itself, it's about a part of football that we're losing as we, everyone chases headlong into a more corporate world of football and the people that attracts. So I think it's a wider thing of what we're losing in football is an issue here. I think Moyes is I think there was always, when he was previously linked with coming back to Everton, it was like, oh well, he's been there, done that, and he never won anything. But he just gets Everton in a way that other people don't. Certainly, Sean Dyche didn't, and I just think he's the perfect man to rebuild the club, rebuild the team, and it won't be done quickly at all. And this summer is going to be problematic with the amount of people who are out of contract, and still PSR issues there. But he's done it before. He can build football clubs, and I'm sure he'll build Everton as well.
Tell us about your goal then, Andy. Go on.
That was just a little cheeky penalty slotted into the bottom corner of the Gladys Street end.
Was it against a proper goalkeeper?
Not really.
We won't tell anyone.
There wasn't one.
Hey, thanks for coming on, Andy. Cheers, Andy. Thanks for coming on, mate.
Thanks for having me.
Andy Hunter there, the Guardian's Merseyside football correspondent. And before we end part 2, worth mentioning Brian Glanville, who's died at the age of 93. His football writing had a massive influence on generations of reporters and readers alike. He was a novelist and a columnist, a prolific commentator on the game, passionate chronicler of Italian football as well, author of some of football's most influential books. People might remember The Story of the World Cup, The Puffin Book of Football. Some older listeners might have read that as a kid. I spent 30 years as a football correspondent for the Sunday Times, contributed to World Soccer magazine for more than 5 decades, wrote for The Guardian too. Richard Williams, former Guardian chief sports writer, wrote R.I.P. Brian Glanville, 93, maestro of the football stadium press box and purveyor of truly awful jokes. Tim Vickery wrote, I owe a huge debt to this man, a true giant of our trade, a mighty source of internationalist inspiration. R.I.P. Brian Glanville. We send our thoughts, of course, to his friends and family. And we'll be back in a sec to round up the rest of the Premier League. Welcome to part 3 of the Guardian Football Weekly. So the Champions League race then. Arsenal guaranteed in the Champions League, 71 points. Then it is a real bun fight. It's great. Newcastle have 66. Chelsea have 66. Villa have 66. City 65. Have a game in hand. Forest have 65. At the Emirates, Declan Rice scored the only goal in that win over Newcastle. Guarantees them Champions League football. Declan Rice, Barry said he wasn't sure if it was a well-deserved victory. Game of two halves, he said, which seems like a pretty fair summation.
Yeah, I think he nailed it. Arsenal didn't play well in the first half. David Raya had to bail them out a couple of times. Newcastle didn't have Alexander Isak. He was out with a groin injury and he was quite a conspicuous absentee. I think they might well have scored if he'd been there. Callum Wilson's a decent player, but he's not at the same level as Isak. And then Arsenal came out for the second half. I suspect they probably got a rocket off Mikel Arteta during the break and scored quite early in that second half after Anthony Gordon was swarmed off the ball. Ball was played wide to Odegaard, I think, and his cross was swept home by Rice. Really nice finish by Rice, actually. And that was, I think, Newcastle didn't really create a great deal in the second half. Arsenal were pretty much in control. Joe Willock had a half-decent opportunity near the end that he blasted over the bar. But good win for Arsenal. They'd already lost against Newcastle 3 times this season. I'll be honest, I thought they'd lose again yesterday. I was mistaken. Very, very good win for them, yeah.
David Raya made some really good saves, couple of very good double saves, very good at getting back up again. He's clearly not a middle-aged man. That's what I was feeling. That's third season in a row they'll be second, Troy. Is that good? It's not bad, is it?
It's not bad, and when you think of second in this league, you obviously have to give Arsenal credit, but I think Arteta will be disappointed at the points difference between themselves and Liverpool. They've drawn 14 games this season. You can't do that and expect to win a title. I'd imagine you can't do that and expect to hold on to second place. So that win was vital. Newcastle were great. Arsenal were much better, and I think they would have had a rollick at half time. But I think, again, the Champions League journey has maybe taken their eye off the ball in the league a little bit. Obviously, their form hasn't been too great, but how do you knock a side that have finished second and have got to the semi-final of the Champions League? I think self-judgment would be that this was the year that potentially, and there were a lot of people's favourites, weren't they, to win the league this year. And as it stands, before tonight's game, they're 12 points behind Liverpool. That shouldn't be acceptable at all. But look, they're growing. They'll have another go. They may eventually sign a centre forward that turns those draws into victories. But I think he'll be massively disappointed about the amount of draws that they've had this season.
And after nobody was booked for kicking the ball away, after Arsenal had a couple of players booked for kicking the ball early in the season, Mikel Arteta was booked for kicking the ball, whatever the opposite of kicking it away is, kicking it home, kicking it to, just basically back into play, but still, why not? Give him a yellow card. But yeah, Newcastle still with work to do. Forest won 2-1 at West Ham, and they obviously needed it. And, they survived a bit of a late scare, but they got the job done.
Yeah, they've had a bit of a stutter in recent weeks. I think they've been very proud of the fact they've used the fewest players for a lot of the season, kept players fit, but I think that has also worked to tire them out, which has been a problem. But Nuno tinkered very well for this game, and Elanga and Wood were pressing high, which brought about the first goal. Awful from Areola. The bloke's in a different colour shirt to all of his teammates.
It's amazing,
still passed it to him. Just right on the edge of the box. It's incredible. And then, obviously, the second goal came, and the world's longest VAR delay for absolutely no reason. He didn't need to draw lines, but that didn't seem to be working. The comms wasn't working. Yeah. So, really irritating for Forest and anyone there in the away end wondering what the hell was going on. But yeah, I think Forest now is big shootout against Chelsea at the weekend. That's where the focus is going to be. It'll be an incredible atmosphere at the City ground. But what has been lost is Forest have already qualified for Europe for the first time in 30 years. It's an incredible achievement. The teams have seen off with the recruitment they've done, and obviously in the past it's been a bit scattergun, but spent not a massive amount of money like Milenkovic at 10, 12 million quid. Has been phenomenal. The best centre-half pairing in the league, I'd argue him and Murillo. If they could get in the Champions League in that final day at the City ground, if you think Ed was giddy, I think you'll find some Forest fans next week who might not make it back to work for a couple of months. But yeah, and also lost in this, I think Gerard Bowen's goal was absolutely phenomenal.
Amazing.
One of the great consolations.
Surely he must be thinking, Barry, I could go. I know there's obviously the obvious Danny Dyer gag in there, but he must think I could just go and be good and have good people around me rather than just carrying a whole football team on my back.
Oh, of course. And I'll be honest, I think I'd be surprised if he didn't. He obviously has an affinity to West Ham, and he is Danny Dyer's son-in-law. That is an added complication. You don't want to upset Danny. I think he should be playing for somebody a lot better. I'm not sure where he'd be the best fit, but he is. But then again, would he be as effective in a better team? Maybe he is a big fish.
That's a good question.
But there's only one way to find out, isn't there?
Get in the big pond and see what happens. On Friday night, there were those two games that we all expected the results to go as they did. Chelsea beating Manchester United, Aston Villa beating Spurs. Those sides both with eyes on something else. So Manchester United put in a really strong starting 11. Well, strong is a different question. They put in their starting 11. Whether that's strong or not is a different matter, I guess. And it took Chelsea a bit of a while, Troy. The goal is beautiful, isn't it?
Look, both games were a little bit of an anticlimax to normally how they would play, but I managed to catch quite a lot of this game. And you're right, Manchester United did do well, and obviously had the disallowed Harry Maguire goal, didn't they? Who's probably their best centre forward at the moment, so they may want to consider playing him up front on Wednesday night. But Reece James's part was brilliant, the little turn and then the clip to the back post. I'm not sure he knew who was going to be flying in the back post, but Cucurella took it upon him to say, yep, this one's for me, and planted it beautifully in the back of the goal. It was that. And I suppose they edged it slightly. They needed it because next week's going to be tough, as we've already mentioned, against Forest. But Maresca's got them playing well. He's, at last they seem to be putting a little bit together. Obviously, they've not had Nicholas Jackson, so that's a difficult one. But they will be looking forward to their cup final as well. But they've got to get over the line because they won't want to miss out on the Champions League. It's too important. But it's going to be a real... That's the game probably that I'm going to watch next week, is that Forest-Chelsea game. Yeah. So I think that's going to be the one that sorts it all out.
It does look like neither Spurs or Man United will get to 40 points. Man United played their starting 11. Spurs rested most of their team, left quite a few back in London. I don't know what the better choice is. Very funny from Martin Keown on Match of the Day 2 when he was asked about it. He went, yes, two of my favourite teams here. But Spurs lost 2-0 to Villa. Again, I guess, Barry, it took Villa a little bit of time. Spurs played very defensively. I don't know if that's a portent to what they're going to try and do in the Europa League final, but Villa got the job done.
They did. I'm not going to lie, Max. I was at Jonathan Wilson's stag do on Friday night. This game passed me by. I have seen fleeting highlights, but I think it would be pragmatic for Spurs to be very defensive on Wednesday night. I also think it would be a complete sellout of their principles to be very defensive on Wednesday
well,
night.
They've done that at Frankfurt and Bodo, so maybe they will. I suspect most listeners would be far more interested in Jonathan Wilson's stag do than they would about Aston Villa Spurs. We'll get to it.
I was, rather than watching Aston Villa versus Spurs, I was just watching Instagram updates of Jonathan Wilson's stag. I mean, it was far more entertaining.
So the supercomputer from Opta says Newcastle have an 83% chance of getting there. Man City, 86%, because they've also got two games. Home to Bournemouth, away to Fulham, who are both in that race for 8th place. Newcastle are at home to Everton, should get that job done. Chelsea Forest, we've already mentioned, at the City Ground, of course. Villa away to Manchester United, who will either be very sad or very hungover, we presume. Anyway, it will be an interesting final day. The race for 8th. So 8th now could get Conference League if Chelsea don't get into the Champions League, but they win the Conference League. Brentford, Brighton, Fulham, Bournemouth are all desperate for Forest to beat Chelsea and then Chelsea to beat Betis. And then it'll be all right for them. Fulham won 3-2 at Brentford, which was a really, really good game, which probably passed a lot of people by given all the football that was happening. And Harry Wilson scoring the winner in this. He scored twice in injury time, if you remember, to give Fulham victory against Brentford in the reverse fixture. What did you make of it, Barry?
Brilliant goal.
Yeah, brilliant.
That Harry Wilson goal was good. Just Brentford, I'm kind of envious of Brentford fans because they just seem to play so many entertaining games. Whether they win or lose, they win more than they lose. That front three, they must be up near 50 goals between them at this stage. I think it's around 47, 48.
19 each for Wizard and Mbuma, so yeah.
And Sade's got 10 at least.
Brilliant.
So yeah, near enough 50 goals between them. They're just so entertaining to watch. It'll be interesting to see if Thomas Frank wants to stay there, if someone else comes in for him. But this is Tom Kearney's last game for Fulham as well. He scored a nice goal, and it's a game that will probably end up being of little consequence, but another very entertaining game. at Brentford.
Yeah, Ben Mee is leaving as well. Presumably after the bright lights of London, he needs to move to the Cotswolds or Whitstable or Devon so he can write a piece about leaving London for the Observer magazine. 8th is now in Brighton's hands if they beat Liverpool and Spurs. Jamie Vardy's final game at the King Power. And he scored a classic Vardy goal, 200th goal for Leicester in his 500th game. I mean, he cost just £1 million. It's an amazing... His story is amazing. And I know we've sort of talked about it before, but it was great for the Leicester fans who've had absolutely nothing to celebrate. They didn't score for about half the season to have that moment.
Yeah, it was a perfect run. Finished across the goalkeeper. Wonderful, wheels away. This is it. I mean, you say it's not a lot of money, £1 million. First £1 million player for non-league. It was actually quite a big risk, I guess, at the time.
Yeah, fair.
But clearly he'd shown his value there and has forever done the same. He's a sort of throwback to these strikers that want to get in behind, making these runs. And he has got smarter with his runs as he's gone on. Done incredible things at Leicester that no one could believe. Obviously we're not the sole reason. Within Kante and Mahrez and people like that, but just the consistency as a striker for that long, and to still be doing it at 38, going on 39, when everyone else doesn't want to. I mean, everyone would fancy just packing it in after this. I've had my time, but it sounds like he doesn't want to go abroad even. He fancies a final season in the Premier League, and shows that he can still do it. Whether he can do it with a 38-game season, get enough goals for a team is another matter. I did enjoy his interview after the match, and the cameraman...
So good, wasn't it?
Yeah. Apart from the fact the cameraman had got the away end behind him, which was empty, apart from sort of a few lunatic Ipswich fans who decided to stay and watch it.
Could it be a sun issue? Might be the sun. Can we blame
No.
the sun? I don't know where the sun was, but yeah. No, okay, we can't. Fine.
And that's it. I mean, he's a very open, honest person, seems relatively grounded still and quite witty with it. So yeah, I mean, what a moment for him. I wrote very briefly about it before the game. That Leicester at least finished the season with something to celebrate, and that's it. Football. Maybe it was inevitable that Leicester were going down, but at least if you have these moments, these happy moments, it's not winning the FA Cup at Wembley, but being able to cheer on your hero, and a hero for 13 years. Generations of fans. They're all they've known is Jamie Vardy, and knowing Leicester's recruitment, he'll be replaced by another non-league striker who's probably not as good.
He did say in that interview when they were like, the guy was trying to sort of big up Leicester's youth. And he said, will they be all right? And he just went, yeah, they'll be fine. Just like really throw away. And they brought back loads of title winners. I was so excited to see Okazaki, who I hadn't thought about for so long, but I loved him when they won the title in that sort of guard of honour that they had with current players, and then Andy King and Mark Albrighton in their civvies. But yeah, well done to Troy.
Max, has anyone ever seen of all of us an angrier goal scorer celebration than Jamie Vardy? It seems like every time he scores a goal, he's just angry with the whole of life.
Well, I mean, of course, Tamuri Kitsbayer does spring to mind, but I don't know. He didn't celebrate that like that with every goal, did he? But yeah, I think he ran to the away end, Vardy. I think he even said it.
Yeah.
They were giving him pelters, so he ran over to there to give him some. Yeah, well, I'd be fascinated. We talked about it already, actually, but I kind of hope, like Barry suggested, that he goes to one of the absolute top teams and just plays like 15, 20 minutes and comes on, rather than, go to a promoted side and try and play, 90 minutes every week. Just, go and be like special teams for, I don't know, for Liverpool or something. That'd be great. Or I think that'd be really good fun. Anyway, midweek games. Then tonight, Brighton, Liverpool, Crystal Palace, Wolves and Man City, Bournemouth on Tuesday. We'll cover those on Wednesday's pods. A few other bits you may have missed. Real Madrid have signed Dean Howson from Bournemouth in time to play in the Club World Cup. Activated his 50 million release clause. I think they paid 12 million for him. That is good work from Bournemouth, isn't it? Chelsea beat Manchester United in the Women's FA Cup on Sunday. So an unbeaten domestic treble for Sonia Bonpastor. Congratulations to them. Obviously, Women's Football Weekly is up tomorrow, wherever you get your podcasts. Listen to that. Producer Joel is delighted. Charlton beat Wycombe 1-0 at the Valley. 81st minute winner in that game. They'll play Leyton Orient on Sunday. Walsall beat Chesterfield 2-1. So we're all Walsall after their terrible run. They will play Wimbledon, who beat Notts County 2-0 over 2 legs in the League 2 playoff. Next Tuesday, we'll review all those finals. PSV did claim the Dutch title after the Ajax choke. They beat Rotterdam 3-1. Could have been Liverpool or Rome. Yes, thank you, Joel. Really good. And finally, Christian writes, Dear Max, producer Joel and co, I took myself off to the Oval on Friday afternoon to get on with some work while enjoying the gentle hum of county cricket in the background. What a lovely way to work. Lifting my eyes from my laptop to politely applaud a Johnny Bairstow cover drive, I noticed who I initially thought was the Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk, sitting a couple of rows in front of me. While I maintain the Oval is an excellent place to work from, surely Mr. Tusk would have more urgent business to attend to. What with the war on the continent, I think an election in Poland right now. But after overhearing those unmistakable tones, I realised it was Barney Ronay. It was then that I realised he was surrounded by a few fellow Guardian panellists, including Wilson and Barry, and fellow big names from the world of podcasting, Tom Holland and Daniel Norcross. Do the Football Weekly panellists, excluding you, hang out together all the time? Are they bound by sacred podcasting oath to never leave each other's company? Thanks for the incessant football chats, says Christian. That's a good way of describing it. I later had a chat to Barry, discovered it was Wilson Stag Do. So many congratulations to him. Insert joke about how the man who wrote Inverting the Pyramid managed to find someone willing to marry him. But I quite enjoyed the book, in all honesty. So then Barry, was it a wild night?
I have no recollection of talking to this correspondent, so apologies for that. I guess it might have been quite late in the evening, or the day's play. It was, Yorkshire, Surrey, very pleasant day. It's what I imagine it was like being at Goodison Park yesterday. Quite emotional, people chatting, reminiscing, with a sporting event no one was very particularly interested in going on in the background. Then we went to the Kennington Tandoori for curry, which was
lovely,
absolutely delightful. And thank you to all at the Kennington Tandoori for their patience in dealing with a well-behaved, but I would say quite raucous.
Is that one of those
crowd
chicken dance sack? And who's got that? And then it's like 20 minutes. The poor waiters. No,
they were incredibly efficient. And they nailed it. So yeah, there was about 45 people on the stag do, I think. And then we repaired to some pub in Kennington. I had to tap out quite early because I was just full. I could not drink anymore. But I have subsequently heard that Wilson was doing shots, which I'm sad I missed. And Barney got in a heated exchange with a man who had a dog in a box, who may or may not have been the pub owner. So I'm not really sure what happened there. We'll have to ask Barney at a later date. I don't know if the exchange was about the fact that there was a dog in a box or something entirely unrelated. But
were there holes in the box? I mean, like a dog, like a cat box, or was it?
I didn't see the dog in the box.
You didn't see the dog in the box.
It sounds like it might have been some sort of magic trick. Maybe the dog was just resting in a box. I don't know.
Possible. Maybe it was just a Barney metaphor. We'll see it in a match report, After the Europa League final, Bruno Fernandes was caged like a dog in a box. We'll know where it came from. Anyway, many congratulations to Wilson, of course. Sad to have missed it. And no doubt we'll ask him about it when he's next on. And that'll do for today. Got through a lot, didn't we? Well done, everybody. Well done, Will. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Max.
Thanks, Troy.
Cheers, Max.
Thank you, Barry.
Can you imagine how different this podcast would have been if Manchester City had won the Cup, Taylor Harlebert Bellis or Ross Stewart had scored the last goal at Goodison, and Jamie Vardy had hit the post?
Got sent off for two-footing someone, You're absolutely right. It would have had a different vibe. You're right. We can only report on what happens. That's all we are. Anyway, Football Weekly is produced by Joel Grove. Our executive producer is Danielle Stevens. We'll be back on Wednesday.
This is The Guardian.